So this is breaking news. I mean, Louie G is back.
You're hearing it first, right? I was looking for something to do to keep my, to keep myself out there, and I was approached by a friend of mine, TJ Eric, and he wanted to do a podcast. He listens to them all the time, and I got to be honest, before he approached me, I never listened to one. And then I looked into it more. I talked with him, and I'm excited to do this. Yeah, we're gonna do this, and it should be up and running very soon. And that's the one thing that I am proud of, is that the station didn't make me. I made me, and I can bring that anywhere. You know, I wasn't dead when they decided to walk me out the door. But there's a million people that have stories, and it's gonna be nice to be chatting with them and to bring back some laughter and some banter and a different sort of way to do it. This community is great because you just don't see stuff in other areas like you see around here. If there was a benefit, I don't know if you'd see the same response you would in New York City as you would the people coming out here to help each other. And one day I woke up and it just clicked, and I was like, I'm done. Total to date, I'm 300 pounds lighter than my heaviest. I tell people to this day, if you gotta wanna do it. If you don't, then don't waste anyone's time. When you're ready. So he comes home and there's rose petals from the front door going through the living room to the bedroom, and the candles are lit and the soft music is playing. So I'm under the covers instead of her. She's in the closet.
On today's show, I bring you Louie G. Augostini, who for more than a quarter of a century has been the voice of local radio. In this hour-long episode, you'll get to know the man behind the voice a little better as he gives us a glimpse into his world. I put Louie on the spot, asking him about the day he was let go from his job and the future of local radio. Since filming this episode, Louie G is back in action and on the air with his longtime radio partner, Tanya Wheeler. It's great to see this dynamic duo working together again, bringing happiness to people's lives. Then, Louie tells his inspirational story of astonishing weight loss and how one day he had an aha moment and said it all just clicked, and how making a small change in his choice for breakfast made all the difference in the world. Today, he's been on a mission of daily exercise and is very conscious of portion control. He's 300 pounds lighter than he was at his heaviest. Our conversation doesn't stop there. Louie reveals his new venture of becoming a podcaster with our mutual friend TJ Eric on their new show, Table of Knowledge. In addition, Louie talks about his affinity for his Italian heritage and takes us back to when his grandmother boiled pasta at family cookouts while all the other families were making hamburgers and hot dogs. As always, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube channels. I'd like to thank our partners and sponsors, especially Happy Socks, turning an everyday essential into a colorful design item, and Alitura Naturals. Go to alituraNaturals.com and use the coupon code AMERICAN for a very exclusive 20% discount offer. If you're feeling inspired and want to join a circle of like-minded individuals, we currently have open enrollment for our Masterminds Elite Pass program. Click on the link below to learn more and see if it's something for you. And now, without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Louie G.
This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks, and today our guest is Louie G. Augostini. Louie G, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. This is exciting. This is very neat up here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you were on our top 10 list of guests. So
look at that.
It took a couple of months to get in touch with you, but we so appreciate you being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
To share your story.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, usually the lists I'm on aren't that good.
No, you're doing a lot of good things out there. So look, you are what I would call a self-made hometown hero. Wherever you go, people gravitate toward you. You have an infectious personality, an infectious smile.
Oh, thank you.
And you've built this following over the years, just based on being you. And I think that's pretty rare today. I think a lot of people get caught up in there's some type of facade, in who they are, but you have always stuck to being you. And I just want to ask you, is that accurate? Do you think that describes Louie G?
I guess it would. Yeah. I mean, I don't ever feel like I've tried to be someone that I wasn't, and I've always thought like, this is it. You either like it or you don't. So.
Yeah, and tell us about. You were live for many, many years in your career as a DJ. How did you prepare for that on a day-to-day basis? Again, just to stay so calm, refreshing, a lot of comedy. How did you prepare for that?
You know what, it's interesting because I loved it. It was a lot of fun, and it was just one of those jobs where you wake up and you just want to keep, your main thought was to just keep it lighthearted. Like I would go to work thinking everyone is so busy, and we've talked, earlier about having families and kids and how it's nonstop and how, stressful things are. And that short period of time where they would turn on the radio, they wouldn't want to hear anything serious. Or, I always told myself over the years, nobody cares, like if I'm having a bad day or if something bad happens to me, like, and maybe that's a little harsh, but, I would just go in there thinking, they just want to smile for 5 minutes, for a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
So that's what my objective was whenever I, looked up information or got ready to do things, it just was to, hopefully make them smile a little bit.
Yeah. And where does that optimism come from? Have you been like this your entire life?
I feel like it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It just sometimes it would get me in trouble. Like are you never serious? We try and ask you a serious question and we could never get one. You know. But I'm like, well, I don't know. I like to laugh.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a great trait. So the question, the big question is, and I received a few on Facebook messages. People want to know, where did your nickname come from? Where did Louie G come from? I heard the story before, but
Okay.
I just want to hear it firsthand.
If I've told this once, I bet you I've told it 150 times. And it's funny because I graduated from Broome Community College and I had applied at a radio station. My first station was at the time Star 105.7. And I was working at a bar and 105 was promoting the bar. So they were there, and they didn't know that I had applied or anything. So they asked me if I wanted a job, and I said, yeah. And that was it. So I started working there, and they said, your name on the air is going to be Louie D. I said, okay. And I was just excited. I was 23.
Sure.
I was going to be on the radio. I didn't care what you called
Right.
me. So I started working, and then a couple weeks later, I said, why Louie D? And they had said, well, your last name is, D apostrophe Augustini, D'Agostini. And I said, no, it's not. I said, it's just Augustini. So then I changed it to Louie G, so it would sound like Louie G. So, and that was it.
That's the story I heard,
Yeah.
and that's good. Now, is your real name Luigi?
No, Louis.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
Louis.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Talk a little bit more about your optimism. We touched on it earlier. You always have a smile on your face. It's a great trait. Is it something you think about? I mean, are you conscious of it, or is it just you?
Honestly, I don't think it is. Sometimes people say, what are you smiling about? And I don't know if I can even answer them. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with somebody, and they'll be like, all right, what's the smile for? And I really don't know. And they'll think, I'm up to something or whatever, but I don't know. It's one of those things that I really do love. Like, I don't know. I don't think about it. I do it.
And are you happy inside?
I am. I feel
for
like
the most part all the time.
Yeah, I feel like I am. I love people,
Yeah.
and it just, I don't know. It's better than the alternative, I guess.
And I think that's why people gravitate toward you, actually, because
Okay.
I looked at that Facebook post this morning of you with the school kids.
Oh, right.
I mean, there must have been, 20, 30 kids there.
Yeah.
And you could just see that they're happy standing with you.
They were fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun.
So tell us about something like that. What did you do last night or whenever it was?
Yeah, that was a trivia party.
Okay.
And they combined 2 elementary schools because next year they're going to be in one school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that they just started where they want the kids to sort of interact with each other. So they do this event, they mix them up into teams so, kids aren't just with their friends, they're with kids from other schools. And then we do, trivia, a party, and it's nothing, long or like that, but it's, just something fun where the kids have to interact with each other afterwards. They have ice cream, and I hosted it, and it was nice. The kids are fun.
That's great.
Yeah, the kids are good.
Louis, what makes you the most happy?
Being around people. Being around people easily makes me happy. When I'm not, I feel like I'm going crazy sometimes. I'm sure we'll get into the whole job thing, but for a couple days afterwards, I didn't do anything, and that drove me absolutely crazy. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I had to get up, and you're in that rut where you don't want to do anything yet. You need to.
Right.
So yeah.
So let's talk about that. First, tell us how you started to tell us about 105.7. That was
Yeah.
your first job, but then take us from there. Where did your career path go?
I started when they had hired me. I started working overnights, and then I progressed. I started doing nights, and at the time we had that was fun. Something called the All Request Hour. And I was on from 6 to 11, but at 9 o'clock we would take calls from kids, wanting to hear a song dedicated to a girl, that kind of stuff. And it's funny because over the years, and I have a terrible memory, which I think is one of my good qualities, that I don't remember stuff. I don't want to sometimes.
Right.
But, it's great to hear from people that say, I remember I dedicated a song and you did it, and that was 20 years ago. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's great.
Yeah.
They go, I don't mean to make
Those
you
little
feel
things
old.
matter.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's nice that they remember, that they, can sort of put a face with their experience.
Sure. And you spent how many years? 20 years? 20 plus years?
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
What were some of your most memorable moments?
A lot of the community events.
Mm-hmm.
I always say this. This community is great because, you just don't see stuff in other areas like you see around here. If there was a benefit, I don't know if you'd see the same response you would in New York City as you would the people coming out here to help each other.
Yeah.
But the different events, the Speedy Fest and the golf tournaments, and even, the different shows and stuff that have come through the area, you know, those are the memories that really stick out for me.
Yeah.
They were a lot of fun.
And even after, you know, some tragedies, whether it's a hurricane or whatnot, I know you've been involved with, you know, collecting food, and they, you know, bring the large trucks and you collect the water, and you've been really good in that regard with
9/11.
9/11.
9/11 was a big one.
Yeah.
We didn't, you know, like everyone else in the world, you didn't know what was going on at first. You're watching it live, and the next day I was doing the morning show at the time, and they sent me to Walmart and said, you know, we're going to send you down there to just collect supplies. And they didn't even know what kind of supplies were needed, nothing. Bottled water, money. We ended up filling 8 tractor trailers, raising over $200,000 in cash.
Wow.
One mom brought her little son, who brought his piggy bank, who I believe is a cop now. You know?
Wow.
And it just seeing stuff like that, you know. And then everyone came by and just wanted to be part of it, just wanted to help out, you know.
And I think you're right. It is rare for a community of this size to have so much love, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's very unique.
and it's all the time. It's not just for
Right.
these situations of tragedy, but supporting locals, whatever it may be, whether it's school events or charity events. You know, there's a lot of support in this community.
Yeah, there really is, and there always has been. And that's the one thing that's always blown my mind, is how great people are. You know, and it's been continuous ever since I can remember. We do our, you know, that food drive that we would do every year. When we first started, we literally lived in the camper, and we would say, we're not leaving until we fill this up, you know. And you know, people would come by all hours, you know, and bring stuff, and we would fill it up and, you know, empty it out a little bit, and then, you know, keep staying there. But people came by, you know. Even the, you know, the last few years when financially you could tell people were struggling, they came by.
Yeah.
You know, they came by, and I just don't know, and I don't know for sure, but it's hard to believe that there's a bigger area out there that has the same kind of support. Yeah.
I would definitely agree.
You know.
So, if you don't mind, can you tell us about what happened recently with the downsizing at your latest job?
Yeah, they decided they wanted to syndicate, bring in a national morning show. I assume to save money. I assume that's what it's always about. And I was on the chopping block for that. So, and the thing that, you know, and I get it because I've seen it over and over the years, and you sort of expect it to happen at some point. But the one thing I don't get, we talk about how great the community is. Binghamton's such a unique area, and I don't think corporate, not just radio, but corporate overall, I just don't think they get it. They try and use a formula or a model that works in New York and Chicago and
A cookie cutter that
yeah, and I just don't think you can
doesn't
put
work
that here.
Yeah.
You know, people don't have a 45-minute hour commute. You know, they have a 5-minute commute. They want to hear their kids on the radio. They want to, you know, hear what's going on locally, and now you just take that away. But what do I know?
Right. Right.
You know?
So what happened that day? Can you walk us through that
Yeah,
day?
I just finished the morning show. It was right after our Christmas party was the day before. And then after I got done with the show, you know, and I sort of knew it when I saw our general manager walk in, and we got to talk, and I said, okay. And then that was it. And then they walk you out like you're a criminal. I always get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
24 years in the business, like I don't know, like you're going to steal what, you know?
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah, and you know, it just makes it so impersonal, right? You
Yeah.
you put your heart and soul into your
right,
job, into
right.
your career. You come to work every day with a great attitude, building this great base of
Right.
listeners.
Yeah.
And you know, not to bash the company or the general manager, because he was obviously just doing his job. But I think at a larger level, and it's on all fronts. It's not just in radio. I mean, radio, as we know, is going through, and it has been for the last decade, major change.
Sure.
But they've had a hard time, like newspapers, reinventing.
Right.
Right. And you know, what are your thoughts on that? Where is radio going in the future?
I hear this 100 times a day. Do you think it was satellite? And I always say no, because you're comparing apples and oranges. Local radio has a niche, and that's local. And why, these big corporations don't see that and embrace that more. And I know they have to answer and pay bills and stuff like that. But it's just like, if you're a fan of Billy Joel, you can either grab his CD that you have, you can listen to Pandora, you can put on the Billy Joel channel on XM. You're not going to listen to a local radio station because you might hear Billy Joel in an hour and a half.
Right.
But if you want local, where do you go?
Yeah.
You're not going to go to Pandora. You're not going to go to XM.
Right.
My
prediction is, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, I think it's going to come full circle. But I think people like you around the country are going to be the leaders in starting their own radio show. Because now, with technology, we could do this as we're doing here right now.
Sure.
We're streaming live on Facebook, and people are listening.
Right.
And they want to listen. And I think I think what's going to happen is we'll see more and more syndication in radio, but then an emergence of podcasts, which we're going to talk about, and just more local radio programming through different mediums.
Sure.
And
I agree.
And I think these big businesses are going to be hurt by it, because it'll go back to the heart and soul of what you just said, and that's the community and being involved, and talking about local things are important to community members. Do you agree?
I do agree. And my problem was, I was comfortable. I was getting up. I was going through a routine, and sometimes I would get to work and not even realize what I'd done to get there. You're in like a zone, and I was comfortable. So now they forced me to sort of take a good look at everything and realize there's a lot of things out there that I can be doing right now. A podcast, other stuff. And, they just forced my hand a little bit, that's all. But yeah, you're right. Like, I think it will come back around. I think, at some point, I don't know. It's hard to believe that people are going to embrace the programming and radio that's out there now, because you can get that anywhere.
Right.
It's instant. Anything you want nowadays is instant. So if you want to know, who won the Grammy last night, you don't have to wait till the next day to hear it on a syndicated morning show. You can just punch it in and you have it 2 seconds later. Yeah. So, but what you can't get is the local.
Right.
So
speaking of podcasts, I understand that you may have a little new venture happening. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and I'm excited about this. This is going to be fun, because I was looking for something to do to keep my, to keep myself out there and not sort of lose, what I love to do. And I was approached by a friend of mine, TJ Eric, and he wanted to do a podcast. He listens to them all the time, and I got to be honest. Before he approached me, I never listened to one. Like I said, I was very comfortable. I was, going on, to work and doing that, and whatever, thought that's all there was. And then I looked into it more. I talked with him, and I'm excited to do this. Yeah, we're gonna do this, and it should be up and running very soon.
That's great. And when you say very soon, how soon?
Hopefully within a couple weeks.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, over the years we've built up, quite a rapport with the community, and that's the one thing that I am proud of, is that the station didn't make me. I made me, and I can bring that anywhere. So just because they feel, local's not important,
I love that.
That's their deal, but I'm me.
You are your brand.
Right, yeah. So I'm not, I wasn't dead when they decided to walk me out the door.
That's
I
right.
just take my brand somewhere else.
So this is breaking news. I mean, Louie G is back.
You're hearing it first, right? And you get it, but there's a lot of people, not just, there's people locally, athletes and musicians, that have made it big, but there's a million people that have stories.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice to be chatting with them and to bring back some laughter and some banter and a different sort of way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
No, and that's the same platform here. We're here to
Yeah.
tell people's stories, and like our tagline, everyone has a story,
Right.
and I think you getting into this will be great for you, and again, great for the community and beyond, because now when you have your own podcast, you reach the entire world.
Right.
So now your fan base could grow that much more.
Right.
And you'll be able to grow it that much further.
And that was the great thing about being approached by this, because I always knew locally there were people that had done cool things or that were fun or that, made it big, this and that. But it was always met with resistance. Are they going to buy advertising? Do they spend money? Are they on a competing station? There were so many questions, so many reasons why we couldn't have them in, or to give them a chance to talk, and you only get 1 minute, that kind
That's
of
right.
thing. So this will be nice, and it'll be refreshing.
Yeah, and I think similar to Sirius XM, I think that was Howard Stern's complaints, is that, he couldn't do his thing. It was all that corporate,
Right.
BS
Yeah,
that
sure.
held him back. So when satellite radio came to be, that just opened the floodgates for him, and he found his niche where he could just be himself and talk like we're talking here,
Right.
for to a guest for a half hour or 2 hours.
Right.
And those interviews that he has are just, they're amazing, because again, you could just connect with someone. Whereas in a radio setting, you have limited time slot,
Yeah.
or even television for that matter. So that's why I really believe in independent media, and this is the wave of the future for people that want to broadcast, like yourself, like myself. We now have a platform to do that.
And we're not going to be controlled, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
We were, on, we were controlled by the companies.
Right.
Because we had 1 minute to talk and, make sure they did this or that. But you're right. Like now it's just going to be, you're just going to hear the real full story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Louie, I'm sure you've made a lot of contacts with people over the course of your career that will make great guests on your show. Do you have a Rolodex of celebrities? Have you met a lot of celebrities over the years? And if so, do you have any stories you could share?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
The part that people sort of relate to when they hear you were on the radio. Who'd you meet?
Right.
And you've had a chance to meet a lot of cool people over the years. And I have to say, my favorite person ever of all time was Michael Jordan. And I met him through the Make-A-Wish, actually, in Chicago. And it was funny because I've met celebrities that have been so gracious and nice, and then you meet some on the other side that just don't care to give you the time of day, talk down to you, stuff like that. And he was awesome. I overheard a phone call. He was signing stuff and taking pictures with a bunch of Wish kids.
Oh, nice.
And he got a phone call, and he didn't think anyone else was listening. I just happened to be in earshot. And I heard him telling the person on the other end that he wasn't leaving till he was done meeting with every single kid. And then the person, I believe, was trying to be persistent. He was like, I don't care what you say, I'm not leaving until...
That's great.
Yeah, I meet with every single kid.
That's great to hear.
That.
That's right.
You know?
But the nice thing about that is a guy like Michael Jordan, who has it all, in that moment, he's really, he's feeling it. He's touched by these kids, right?
Yeah.
And that's so good to hear. And I was recently in Phoenix, and Magic Johnson was the guest, and it was a corporate event, but a very similar experience. He was signing autographs. There was a long line of people wanting to get their picture taken with him, and there was his bodyguard there, and he turned to him and said, "I'm going to stay until this is done, until the last person takes." So it's just refreshing to hear that story about Michael Jordan, and
it really is, because you got to feel humbled that these kids could pick anybody in the world. And you think about it, dealing with Make-A-Wish, who makes these wishes come true all day long,
right.
and these kids pick you.
Right.
So that's sort of cool, and for him to act that way,
Sure.
you know.
And, you know, if you put yourself in the position of the family or the child themselves that's there to meet Michael Jordan, and they're the one that didn't get to meet him.
Yeah, right.
You know, that could have the reverse effect.
Yeah, sure.
Where it could really, you know, hurt them. So,
Yeah.
from an emotional standpoint. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, so he was awesome.
Any other celebrity stories? Any local? Did you have bands in all the time and
Yeah,
that kind
over
of
the
thing?
years, especially when you know, the big events would happen, like the Speedy Fest
Yeah.
and you know, the golf tournament over the years. And I remember we've had a lot of we would party with a lot of the acts after Speedy Fest right here downtown, and you know, there were some late nights, and,
Sure.
and they were a lot of fun. But I remember one year I was a caddy for Fuzzy Zeller when he came.
I don't
with the,
remember Fuzzy.
Yeah, he came in for the Dick's Sporting Goods Open, and I was a celebrity caddy. And at the time, I was probably the heaviest I've ever been.
Okay.
And I was sitting in the car, and he got out, and he was like, "Just stay right there, Louie. I'll get my own club." So basically, I just went for a ride. Yeah, well, he was cool, you know. And I was like, "I'm not walking around handing you clubs."
So you have your Italia hat on today,
do,
which
yeah.
you do most days.
Right.
I have to tell you, Louie, I don't know if I've met many people, other than my father-in-law, Sergio, who's no longer with us, that is as passionate as you about your heritage, your Italian heritage. It means a lot. I mean, you show it every day, and I'm just curious, again, you know, relating it back to just your personality and wanting to know, you know, have you always been so passionate?
I feel like I have. You know, it's been such a big part of my life growing up, you know, and it's been a fun part, you know. I mean, some of the best memories over, you know, the years growing up were, you know, family things, and you know, and still looking back and laughing at all the good times, you know, growing up. And Italians, you know, we had some fun times. You know, we would go, or you know, I saw video at my family would go to State Park for a family, you know, picnic, and while everyone else in the park was cooking, you know, hamburgers and hot dogs, my grandmother had a bowl with water and was making spaghetti at State Park, right? And and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I'm part of the Italian heritage as well, on both my parents' side. My wife is full Italian. Her mother still does the large Sunday dinners, but you said the word that comes to mind to me first, and that's family. Italians are very family oriented, and I've had the opportunity to go to Italy on a few occasions because my wife's family lives there, and over there it's you know, as much or more. I mean, that's their life, you know. And
it's family first,
family
right?
first.
And then maybe work.
That's right. Work
Yeah.
is fifth.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we have it backwards sometimes.
Sure.
You know, they don't have all the amenities and the luxuries that we do.
Right.
But sometimes I think, what would be a better lifestyle?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's great to see that you are so proud of your heritage.
Yeah.
Now-
I can never, you know, go on one of those ancestries and find out I'm not Italian.
Right. That would not be good for
See
you.
a lot of Italy stuff on eBay.
Yes. And speaking of the pasta that you mentioned and the food, I know you have a bit of a fetish, if you will, for pizza.
You mean like would I step over my own mother to get
yeah.
one? Yeah, then yes, I do.
And even over the years on the radio, I love listening to the comedy that you brought forth about pizza. I actually saw a video on Facebook of that dog that you posted that was holding a piece of pizza. It was hilarious.
Yeah, people still send me that stuff. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
To me, there's no better food. I just love it.
What's your favorite? What style? What do you like? Thin crust?
I
thick?
don't have a favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because people ask that, and I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite topping or style. I just love it. I think that's what makes me a true lover.
Right, absolutely.
All of it. Never met one I didn't like.
Right. Now, let's talk about your incredible weight loss
Okay.
that I don't know how many years it's been since you actually started, but would you mind sharing that story of was there a day, was there an aha moment where you said, okay, I'm ready to do this?
It's funny because total to date, I'm 300 pounds lighter than my heaviest. I was 560 pounds at the heaviest. I remember, and back a bunch of years, I had the gastric bypass at the time. And even going back, I tell people to this day, if you gotta wanna do it. If you don't, then don't waste anyone's time. When you're ready, you'll know it. So I had gone through the process to do that. And, you know, it's a great tool, but it doesn't change, you know, your thinking or your habits. So I was 560. I went to, you know, get all the, you know, the proper channels and the, you know, all the sort of ducks in a row to get the surgery. And I went to my cardiologist, and they sat down, took my blood pressure, and the nurse's face turned white. And I would, you know, I was still active. I mean, I was, you know, working and moving and stuff. So, I mean, I know I was heavy, but I didn't feel like I, you know, was that heavy. But she goes, I'll be right back. The blood pressure she took that day was 240 over 165. And, you know, I was like, whoa.
It probably scared her.
Yeah, right. She was like, we can't let you leave, you know, and then the cardiologist came in. But I had gone through, had the surgery, and
They still allowed it?
I had lost some weight.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Albany to get it done, and they make you do, you know, 10% of your body weight, see a psychiatrist, you know, just to, you know, they do it you know, they do all sorts of stuff. So I had traveled up to Albany for a couple years, you know, to get everything, you know, ready for this. And I wanted it because, you know, you just don't want to be that heavy, you know, so it was hard to walk, you know, and my feet hurt, so I would swim, you know, because that's still good exercise, but it wasn't the pressure, you know, so I was doing, you know, little stuff, whatever I could to sort of lose that 10% and then get it done. And I was healthy enough, you know, even though I was heavy. So I had the surgery, and the first week I was in the hospital 5 days, I had lost 50 pounds. It was crazy. And the thing about this surgery is that, you know, it's the easiest part is the first couple years, because when you're done eating, you're done. It's not like you have to think about it.
Right.
You're just done.
Right.
You know it, and it's hard to explain, but you just can't eat anymore. So I had lost, I went down from 560 to, or 5, whatever it was before the surgery, to, I believe 320.
Wow.
And then it started to creep back up a few years ago, you know, and slowly, you know, and they warn you about something called grazing, where even though you can only eat 3 small meals a day, you could eat that 20 times. You could eat one, and then an hour later, half hour later, you know, and I feel like that's what I was doing. And that's when I'd gotten back up to about 440. And that's when one day I woke up and it just clicked, you know, and I was like, I'm done, you know, and didn't do anything. You know, people always say, did you get the surgery again? What'd you do? Like, it didn't take. And, you know, sometimes people don't realize, you know, how mean they can be.
Sure.
You know, but whatever.
Sure.
I was like, no, I just decided I wanted to do it.
Right.
So, you know, right that day I was talking to a friend, and he says, what do you eat for breakfast? And I start at 5 in the morning, and I would usually bring pizza in from the night before. And I say, eat a pizza all morning, but I have all day to work it off, was my thinking. And he was like, well, you know, when you eat carbs or sugar in the morning, you crave carbs and sugar all day long. So he goes, if you switch nothing else, just change that. And that's what I did. I every morning I do a smoothie, protein, spinach, always protein and spinach and milk, and then a different fruit, whatever's in season.
Okay.
And that's the first thing. And at first it was like, I was excited, and I knew, like, it's just a feeling that you just know, that this was it. But sometimes I was like, I don't really feel like it, but I'm like, that's all I got to do. Just switch that, and it was amazing how it just snowballed from there.
Wow.
Like I didn't feel as hungry throughout the day, and I still had pizza for lunch, but I didn't have a whole one. I had one or two, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I started walking a little bit, and
No, that's so inspiring, and I wish we could bottle up the feelings at that moment so you could actually share that with people, because
Right.
I did it myself. There was a time where I was probably 30 pounds heavier, and I had a conversation with someone, and we similar, that I was eating the wrong things at the wrong time, and even drinking a beer, one becomes two, over the week or whatever. So just making subtle changes in your lifestyle, like not eating carbs in the morning, could make such a huge difference.
Right.
But don't you wish you could go back to that moment when you were done to help others say, okay, but is it something people just need to do on their own, or is there any encouraging words that you could give?
I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. I just knew it that day. It wasn't anybody saying anything. That's what I think I've always tried to tell people. You can sit there and guilt me into being 560 all day long. You can tell me I'm upsetting my family. You can tell me, how could I do this? You can try and say, like, you need to do this. Or I always got a kick out of people saying, well, just eat more fruit. That kind of stuff.
Right. It's
But-
that easy.
But it just, people think like, them telling you is going to make you do it. And it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just with weight loss, it's with anything.
Yeah.
Smoking, drinking, bad habits. When you're ready, you'll do it.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that day, I woke up and I was ready. And I don't know why. I don't know why it was that day. I don't know what had happened, or, anything like that. I just knew that day I was like, you know what, I'm done. And you'll know it too when you want to do something, whoever.
Right. Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank
I'm
you.
really proud of you as a friend, because
Yeah.
it's not easy, and I just hope your situation will help others, to give
Yeah.
them the inspiration to say, I could do it too,
Yeah.
but I agree with you. It just you have to be ready. It has to be in your mindset before you could actually start living it every day.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the diets that you've tried over the years.
Everything. There were little chocolate pills called AIDS years ago in the 80s. And
Okay.
you eat those to lose weight. And I was like, what am I doing? And
Did you ever do a liquid diet or anything
yeah,
like
I've
that?
done a liquid diet. I can't even, all sorts of diets.
How about
over the years.
Atkins?
I did Atkins. Atkins was actually one of my funnest.
Sure, because you could eat all the
Yeah.
meats and
Yeah, I
things like
remember
that.
it was right. I had done it for a while, and it had worked, and then you hear criticism over the years, but I was at a restaurant bar, and I ordered a salad, no carbs, just like a chef's salad with extra egg and extra cheese and extra meat, and it was piled on, and then chicken speedy.
Right.
And the guy brought it out, and it was right after Dr. Atkins himself had died, and he was like, he didn't have a heart attack. He tripped over the salad. And it was, then I would eat all the stuff on top and never eat the lettuce.
Yeah.
So I've tried them all. But the one thing I can say to this day now, when I decided to do it, I don't have a diet. I do that in the morning, the smoothie, and then it's just, it's just reasonable. And it's hard to explain because I don't limit anything. I don't do without.
Is it portion control?
It is, very much so. And it's weird because of what I do at breakfast, I don't even think about it. Because the carbs, he was right. My buddy that said that, he was right. Like after breakfast, I was always craving something. Mm-hmm. And now I just feel like I'm not. I stay fuller longer. And then the choices throughout the rest of the day, because I started out right, you want to be healthier choices.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And
so
a lot of people don't know that, so I'm so glad that you shared that today.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like if you want a candy bar, have a candy bar. just, I guess I
Don't have 10 and don't
Yeah,
have them
right,
every day, right? Yeah.
because eventually we all sort of cave into the craving.
Yeah.
And if anything we have to do without, what do we want? Whatever that is.
Well, what my wife and I started doing several years ago now is we'd have Sunday as kind of our cheat day. So what we practice is no bread or pasta, or high carbs throughout the week. And then Sunday, it's okay. Have pasta, have bread,
Right.
make it a cheat day, and that way you're eating well all week, and you're still feeling good that you could still eat that stuff.
Right.
And like you
And
say,
it's
if you want a
great.
candy bar at some point,
Yeah.
so that's worked well for us.
Sure. Because you're getting it. And
Right.
then you're like, okay, I'm good now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And portion control. So, for example, back in the day when you were eating a pizza, maybe a little bit throughout the day, but might be a whole pizza or half a pizza, right? So, what do you do today? Do you limit it to a slice or two, or?
Yeah, I never get a whole pizza anymore. So I'll have my smoothie in the morning, and sometimes later on I'll do some sort of a protein bar. And then lunch will be, if I want a slice or two or, something like that. But I'll never order a whole pizza.
So it's not there to even tempt
Right.
you, right?
Yeah, because then I want it in the morning
Yeah.
when I wake up. So
What about exercise?
I exercise every day, at least an hour.
Tell us what you do.
I do it's some sort of elliptical that's easy on my knees. My knees aren't bad, but I don't want them to be bad. So instead of pounding them, by walking and and stuff like that, I do some sort of elliptical, and at least an hour a day. Sometimes I do more. Sometimes I'll break it up, do 45 and 45. But it's just nice. Like when I clicked and when I started doing this, I walked 20 minutes and. My biggest fear was what had happened my whole life is that I'd get tired of it. So whatever I need to do to keep it fresh, for me it's music. I'll always change my music up, and and that'll keep me going.
Yeah.
You
What do you
know?
like to listen to?
Everything. You would laugh if you saw what was on my iPod.
Tell us a couple
Broadway
examples.
shows, Billy Joel, Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow, and then Metallica. Whatever.
So big, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
Speaking of music, you are a musician,
yeah.
and tell us about your background in music.
I play the trumpet, and I played through school, and I stopped pretty much after college for a while. Then I started playing a bunch of years back, and I played through school, but I did a lot of stuff. I played sports, played the trumpet, and the one regret I think I do have is that I let that time lapse where I didn't play at all after college for a bunch of years.
Is it something that you have to continue to do to stay sharp?
Yeah, especially with the trumpet because, to build up your endurance and stuff like that. So now I play and it's fun, and I envy these guys, that play. It's funny because, when you're a kid and you're told to practice, you don't want to. Now I feel like that's all I want to do some days.
Really?
It's relaxing and it's fun.
That's good.
So
It's a great hobby.
yeah, it is. And we have a killer national anthem version.
Really?
Me and another guy do a duet, and it's pretty cool. We played at the Madison Square Garden before.
Do you have a track of that?
Yeah.
Well, if you could share that with us, we'll definitely post it
All right.
on this episode,
All right.
because I think people would love to hear it.
Yeah.
I
it's
know
a
I
neat
want to hear it.
version. Yeah.
Great.
So.
So there's a rumor out there, Louie, of you played a little trick on a friend of yours.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're willing to share it, but it had something to do with you were hiding. And do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Can you share this story?
Sure. It was
Okay.
right next door here.
Okay.
Actually, and it was on the 3rd floor, and I was when I was the heaviest that I was. My buddy Dave was dating this girl, and she wanted to play a trick on him. So she was like, "I'm gonna tell him that I'm home in bed, and when he comes home, I'll sort of play it up nice, and then he'll come around the corner, and I'll be in bed." So first of all, me walking up 3 flights of stairs back then I must really like you
Right.
for me to want to do that. So she told him that, and she was a tiny girl, 100 pounds maybe, and I'm 5'60", so I don't know how you would ever get us confused, but he told her, come home, I'm going to be home, I have a surprise for you. So he comes home, and there's rose petals from the front door going through the living room to the bedroom, and the candles are lit, and the soft music is playing. So I'm under the covers instead of her. She's in the closet. So so he opens the door, and now you hear like this giggle, like he's all excited, and he's taking his shoes off, and he's walking in, and he's saying, "You're the best," and now you can hear him getting closer and closer, and now he's like, "Oh, I love you," and then he gets to the bed, and he starts rubbing my head under the blanket, not knowing. And then we pulled the covers back, and I wish we recorded it.
Yeah.
I really
What was
did.
his reaction?
It was a blank stare. You know that blank stare you have when you don't know? Like, I get that blank stare when I wake up and I don't know what day it is. I'm in such a deep nap or whatever.
Right.
I'm like, is in the morning? That's the stare he had. He didn't know what was going on. He was expecting his, girlfriend at the time,
Right.
100 pounds, whatever. And then he sees me.
That's a funny trick.
Yeah, so I just.
But only
like
to
I
a good friend, right?
Right. Yeah, I really did wish we had it on video.
That's great. That's great. So we talked about the diets, and I wanted to tell you a little story. So a friend of mine, who's also a friend of yours, had this brilliant idea a few years back, and he was very serious when he sat down with me to have this discussion. He says, I came up with a new diet. I've been trying it out. It works. I swear it works. And I want to patent it. Like I want to write a book, and I want you to help me, and I want to patent this idea. I'm like, okay, let me hear. So he says, okay, the name of the diet is called Eat and Spit. I said, okay. And I said, okay, how does it work? He says, well, you could eat as much as you want, and you just spit it out. I said, come on, you're not serious. He said, yeah. So he says, let me give you an example. So he pulls out a plastic bag from the grocery store, he puts it around his neck, had a dozen donuts, and he starts eating the donuts, and before he swallowed, he'd spit it out in the bag. I said, you're not serious. He says, I'm dead serious. I do this all the time. He says, I want to call it Eat and Spit to be lean and fit. I said, you're crazy. We're not doing this.
Yeah, right.
But he swears by it.
Yeah, right. Everyone has their own, I guess.
Right.
That's great.
So I don't recommend it, but interesting.
I'm gonna try it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us how has this incredible weight loss changed you as a person? Do you feel different? Do you have more energy? Is your mind set different? Are you different in that regard? I know you're the same Louie, but has it made any positive improvements on your life?
It has, but I still feel like I see myself heavy. It's weird and it's hard to explain. But when I look at myself, I still see the bigger me.
Okay.
But my energy is great. I mean, it's nice because, when you're 560 pounds, the things you have to think of are you going to be able to fit in a chair when you go to a restaurant? Are they going to make you, I would scope out a restaurant before we went there because I was like, if they only have a booth, then we just can't go there. And even yesterday I went somewhere and didn't even think about it. She walked me to a booth and I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to fit in this booth. And there was still that much room, but that's like, I still think like that, so it's just weird, but my energy is great. I feel good. Just all sorts of benefits, and you wonder, like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I let it get to that point?
Mm-hmm.
But You know.
And are you continuing to try to lose weight, or are you at a?
Yeah, I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I feel like I'm, gonna get there. at
How
some
much
point.
more?
I want to lose another, I would say 50 or 60 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you have a plan for that, or you just is it your lifestyle change that you've already made? Do you feel that'll get you there, or do you need to do something different even now to take it to that next level?
I don't think so. I think it's just staying on the plan.
Stay the course.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important because it's so easy to fall off. It's so easy to get those habits back, or to get lazy, or, and like I said, the first week after I lost my job, I didn't do anything, but it almost was a blessing, because, I was getting comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting comfortable with every aspect of my life. So that sort of forced me to take a step back and with every area, not just with work, but with me. Like, I'm glad it happened now, because if I had to go out and sell myself to the workforce at 560, people look at you weird. They look at you different. They don't say that, and they don't, but sure, everyone does that. So I'm glad if it was going to happen, it happened now.
Yeah. So you think there's a stigma attached to people that are overweight?
Yep, I do. I really do.
Have you ever felt it directly?
Yes, I've felt it, and like I said, no one's ever said it, but absolutely, you can just tell the way people look at you, the way they act, like you're almost like you're less of a person, and you're not, you're that big, and clearly you don't have your stuff together, because you're overweight, or you're not. We don't think you're as smart as you are. We're not going to take you as seriously, just for all that stuff. Because if you can't even control yourself, how are you going to control anything else?
Where in reality, it's really an addiction, right? You talked about that earlier.
Sure.
Whether it's weight loss, alcohol, drugs, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, it's an addiction.
Sure, comes in all sorts of forms.
That's right.
Ours is just what they see.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And some people could do it on their own, like you did. Your mindset changed, and you were able to do it on your own. Others can't. Others have a really hard time, I think, losing weight on their own, right? And they need that, whether it's Weight Watchers or they need that
coaching or that help.
coaching.
Sure.
Yes.
And there's a million.
And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a million ways or tricks over the years, and with any addiction, with anything. If you ask someone who's overweight, what they need to do, they'll tell you exactly they're probably the smartest people in the world on what it's going to take. Like when I was going, to Albany to get the surgery, I couldn't walk on a treadmill. So I went swimming because I wanted to get it done. I remember, I really I got around, but not that great. So, I started walking up and down the hall 10 times. Next day it was 20 times. The next week it was 50 times. And just little stuff like that. Walking to the end of the driveway. Like if, you really are wanting to lose weight and you want to make it happen, but you have a hard time, giving up that cheeseburger at lunch, eat it, but eat it slower. Chew really slow where you're still eating the cheeseburger, but now you've extended, that, so now it takes you so long to feel full.
Right.
So try that.
Yeah.
Try going swimming if you're having trouble walking.
There's always an
million things.
alternative.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to have soda, which is, that, but, match it up with a glass of water as well. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a million little tricks that if you really want to do it, it'll happen.
Do you think you could help people lose weight based on everything you learned?
I think so. I really do. I really do.
What would be the first thing you told someone that was at your capacity? What would you say to them?
Make sure you want to do it. Don't waste anyone's time, not even yourself. Forget about my time or your friends. Make sure that you are ready. And that because when you want to do anything, you do it, no matter what it is. Make sure you want to do
So true.
it. Yeah. So when you're ready, then you'll do it. And these things that you already know, you'll just incorporate them. You know, but if you're not ready, that's fine. Just don't waste your time.
Yeah. Now, when you were growing up, like when you were in high school, what was your weight? You played sports, you said.
I actually am just about 5 pounds heavier now than I was when I graduated. Really? Yeah, which is exciting when I finally, you know, got to this point. But I was active like any kid, so it was a little more under control.
But as we get older, it gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
You know, through our 30s and then 40s are even harder.
Yeah.
But for young people out there, what advice would you have for them if they're struggling with their weight?
Stay active. When I researched this gastric bypass back in 2006, the people that were the most successful years after were the ones that kept moving. The people that just did it to get the weight off, which, you know, got the job done short term, but then didn't care about walking or moving, were the ones that sort of weren't as successful. So no matter where you are, I'd say, you know, just stay active. I've never told anybody this, but when it clicked that day and I decided this is it, every time I would walk up the stairs, I would walk on a step, both feet, go to another step, and do that. And then I told myself that day, no, now you're going to take a step, as much as it hurts. Wow. And it's just little stuff like that, and that'll strengthen your legs. You know, like, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't do that, both feet on a step, then the next one, you know, and it's I'm telling you, it's just that little stuff, but I knew at that point, that's what I had to do.
And like anything, it's hard work, right?
Yeah.
Nothing comes easy in life.
Right.
Nothing, whether it's work or losing weight, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to want it and then put in the pain, right? No pain, no gain.
Right.
Were there ever times that you felt depressed or just really lonely? And were there ever days that, because you're always in a good mood, so I think, has Louie G ever just broke down? You know, it's like, God, I gotta change my life.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the one good thing about my job over the years was, like I had said earlier, I always went in with the mentality that no one cares. If I'm sad or anything, nobody cares because they have their own life and they just want to smile for that little bit that they're going to tune us in. But yeah, there's days all the time, or there, you know, and I would sort of supplement it with food for the longest time. You know, and didn't realize that, you know.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
Just, right.
Yeah.
To
So
make
no matter
yourself
what
feel
it
better.
was,
Right.
you know, and, you know, growing up Italian, it
Right.
was all about food.
That's right.
You know, you're always happy when you're eating.
That's right.
You know, and then to sort of, you know, figure that out, I just recently did, you know, the last bunch of years. But yeah, I was, you know, supplementing or handling my, you know, whatever I had issues with food.
I had a guest here a couple of months ago, and he's a motivational speaker, but at one time he was a drug addict. And he said, you know, unfortunately, you have to hit rock bottom in order to bring yourself up. Is it similar with weight loss? Do you feel that you, at that point when you were ready, did you hit rock bottom or not? Do you feel that was your lowest point, if you will, for where you said this is enough? Today's the day.
Yeah, and he's right. It really does take that, unfortunately. But yeah, that was it. You know, I mean, were things bad in other areas of my life? No, not necessarily. But that was it. That day, you know, it was for me physically. Everyone, you know, like, you know, you're doing American Real because everyone has a story, which is great. But what I've realized over the years is that everyone has something going on in their life that you don't realize either, you know? So maybe I didn't, you know, show it on the air when I worked, but physically I felt like crap, you know? So.
And today you feel great.
I do. I feel good.
But it's been hard work. We said, you told us it's been how many years now since you had the surgery till today?
2007 was the surgery.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
been 11 years.
Yeah. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great that you've maintained this, and now you're on to that next phase of,
Yeah.
of wanting to lose. Did you say another?
Another 60 pounds.
Another
at
60
least.
pounds.
Yeah.
Great. I know you'll do it.
Yeah. I want to run a 5K at some point. I don't know if I could do it. I'd like to say I can, but I'd like to lose more and then run a 5K.
And when do you think that will be? I mean, do you have a goal like
I don't.
next
not
year
yet,
or
Not
okay?
yet. I want to,
But that's a great goal.
Yeah.
To be able to run a 5K.
Yeah.
I ran a 5K once. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
It's not easy, but I think it's a great goal, and you feel so accomplished when it's done. Who do you look up to most?
It's a good question. I look up to, I guess, obviously other than, people in my immediate family, I look up to anyone that's had a struggle, yet still maintains that composure. To me, that's impressive. I went to church one day, and it was right when Lent had started, and I was like, okay, I'll go and get my ashes. And, I hemmed and hawed, and I saw this mom walk in with 2 or 3 kids, and she's trying to control them the whole time, and I was like, here she is, bringing in these kids, and I had to, convince myself for 3 hours, that I was going to walk in there alone, So anyone that, has struggles and maintains that composure, is impressive to me.
Did you have any heroes growing up, or even today, where you say, that person gives me inspiration?
I don't know. I mean, I have, people that I like musically, that I'm always impressed by. I'm always at awe of these professional musicians that could play
So
like
talented.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So
Who's your favorite trumpet player?
it would have to be between Chuck Mangione or Maynard Ferguson.
Okay.
Yeah, met them both.
Really?
They were great. Yeah, I met actually Chuck Mangione at Aiello's in Whitney Point.
Okay.
He was eating there, and I was there for a family event, and he was with a lady, and he had his signature hat on. He wears that hat that he always has, and he had his head down, and I was like, I know who that is. You're sitting there, and I was like, that's got to be him. And he gets up and walks out, and I'm stuck in the corner of the restaurant where they have a bar there now, and I asked the owner to open, the back door. The alarm was going to go off, and he was like, that's okay. So I ran out the back door, and I ran up to Chuck's car, and I just wanted to say hello. I'm a big fan. And he was like, Jesus, I thought I didn't pay the bill.
That's great.
And then I met him once after that, and he remembered.
That's
he was
great.
like, you were my big stalker.
Oh, that's great. But it's those moments, like you say, I'll probably never see this guy again.
You're right.
I want to meet him, right?
Yeah.
That's nice.
So.
If you could go back and have a conversation with your 20-year-old self, is there any advice that you would give?
Yeah. 3 things that I would give. 2 of them I can tell you. Control your weight better. Keep moving. Don't stop playing the trumpet. Those are the 2 I can tell you. Those are the 2 regrets. Not regrets, but, and I think everything happens for a reason. I do, So they have taken me on paths that, would have been different. But those are the 2 things I would try and instill.
And you don't want to tell us the third?
No, I'd rather not.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Louie, this has been awesome.
I've had a lot of fun.
This
I
is
appreciate
great.
you having me.
You have a phenomenal story. You're a bright light in our community, and I'm so happy that you're going to continue this, with your new podcast. But before we let you go,
Yes.
one last question.
Okay.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I guess I would say that I just made people happy. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Thank you, Louie.
Thank you.
This has been great.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll do this a year from now and catch up and see how you're doing on your new program and if you're closer to that 5K.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.